Hi everyone, I'm excited to welcome David McAnally, Head of Solutions Design for Asia Pacific for Randstad Sourceright, to this episode of Talent Trailblazer TV. I'm Louisa Wilson, Chief Marketing Officer for Randstad Sourceright globally, and I'm really excited to talk to Dave today, all in relation to a new product offering we're going to bring to market called MSP Talent Direct that can really help medium-sized businesses manage and be able to better control their contingent talent spend. So Dave, should we get this interview started?
Please, far away, Louisa.
Okay, so Dave, tell me about what are some of the biggest challenges of managing contingent talent today?
Yeah, look, the biggest challenges we get through managing contingent talent and the drivers for the reasons behind why clients tend to come to an MSP or use a VMS all revolve around the visibility of the spend predominantly. And that spend, the visibility of that spend can be whether how much it is, how it's being spent, i.e. are the hiring managers hiring candidates underneath an SOW rather than through controlled procurement practices, or are we getting standardised rate cards across the businesses, so the business lines inside those companies. Look, all these problems exist no matter what size company is, but unfortunately the smaller size companies and the medium-sized companies are the ones that don't typically tend to have access to a VMS to control that for them, or an MSP to help them control the overarching process. So the reason for the development of MSP Talent Direct was around trying to bring that VMS and the MSP to the masses, if you like.
Dave, our own Talent Trends research has found that 70% of countries served in APAC are investing in vendor management systems this year, which is up nearly 20% from 2016, where 54% said they were utilising vendor management systems or VMS. So how can a VMS help organisations better address the challenges that you mentioned earlier?
It's simply straight up access to data. The more data, obviously, a business has, the better they can analyse it. The visibility of the spend and the visibility of the hiring managers using and spending that money on contingent workforce is the key point, if you like, for us to be able to do trend analysis, and it actually gives the client more ability to drive better decision making. The clearer understanding of where that money has been spent by business unit, whether it's by an SOW, by or underneath typical contingent procurement practices. This is where the clients start to get that better visibility to make better decisions. Looking at things like the visibility of repeatable families as well allows us to focus on how we can actually put together proper talent pool structures and the efficiencies that come from talent pooling by those repeatable families, and also things like red flag reporting for compliance breaches. When you look at the companies typically tend to look at these things, when it comes down to compliance, the compliance splits into two different directions, whether they're compliant towards things like co-employment risk, or whether they're compliant towards things like individuals that have to hold tickets or licenses to be able to operate under that company's guidance. So, those are probably the major things that you look at for what a VMS and how the VMS addresses those problems.
So, David, really sounds like visibility, transparency, and then be able to use that for planning and management of your contingent talent pipeline and approach to the market. So, I think that add a lot of value in terms of how organisations can manage their overall contingent labour approach. So, tell me, why aren't more organisations investing in VMS technologies?
Typically, it's because it doesn't come cheap. VMS technologies are run by third-party businesses, and those third-party businesses need to make money. So when you look at the smaller tier companies that don't necessarily have the spend to justify bringing a VMS in, sometimes the cost of the implementation for that VMS company won't justify the money that they will make out of that particular investment from a particular client based on spend. And that's how typically VMS technologies make money, is by a percentage of the spend that runs through the actual technology itself. So a lot of it comes down to cost, and a lot of it comes down to the complexity of the implementation. But once they've actually got that enough critical mass from a spend point of view, that's when it starts to be more effective for them as a business.
So, Dave, if we think about the power of the VMS technology is going to bring to medium-sized businesses, as well as looking at, really bringing talent-centric MSP models to these organisations to drive their contingent labour or talent approach, can you tell me about some of the benefits and expected outcomes of the MSP Talent Direct model?
Yeah, absolutely. With the MSP Talent Direct model, our key focus is, as you've just mentioned then, on driving more direct delivery into the program, where we supply the candidates directly to the programs. What we're doing with MSP Talent Direct is aggregating a lot of that sourcing engine and aggregating a lot of the administrative functions into a central delivery team to allow for efficiencies in hiring into grouped job families, if you like. So IT will have its own, finance and administration will have its own. And then if there's any specific specialities that the clients specifically need, we can build sourcing engines out underneath those specialities as well. So we're aggregating, when we aggregate a lot of things. We're aggregating the sourcing engine, the administrative engine, but then also for the purposes of, as I mentioned earlier, with the VMS, we're aggregating the VMS spend into one spend to leverage the buying power on behalf of these smaller companies. So really the biggest benefit these clients are going to see is they get access to the VMS, which is bringing their new levels of visibility to them for the reasons that I just mentioned, but they're also getting a sourcing engine that has evolved over time that helps to direct deliver into these programs as well.
Fantastic. So, Dave, it sounds like that we answer to all the challenges in terms of visibility, transparency, risk management, but also most importantly today, access to talent. And I do know that a number of organisations in the Asia Pacific markets are focused on how do you identify and bring in strong contingent talent to be able to optimise their workforces and deliver on critical projects, approaches, etc. So I think that's a really exciting opportunity to bring MSP Talent Direct to market. So I just have one more question, Dave. So, I think one of the great things about MSP Talent Direct is that it could give you a very strong foundation to create more of a holistic total talent model for mid-sized businesses, where we can look at identifying and managing both permanent and contingent talent under a unified human capital function. So tell me, is this the future?
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely. I think a lot of the clients, and you'll see this globally, not just here in our region, that if they are going to go to a truly integrated model or a futuristic total talent model, you'd be looking at starting in an MSP program first and foremost, and then bleeding in or blending into an RPO delivery model post that, and then creating that true TTM style of approach. I think the same drivers are the reasons why we think this will evolve into true talent, total talent programs, and that's because it gives them broader visibility over what's available to them in their contingent space first, which gives them a wider access to talent. And once they have that true visibility, then we become the triage process, if you like, for the requisitions, and we have that opportunity straight up to identify, is contingent best, is freelancer best, is it best to look at a gig, or are we truly wanting this person to be a full permanent type hire? And I think that the drivers for that tend more to be towards the procurement function of the business and the contingent function of the business driving into permanent. And we really do see that this will be the future of our MSP Talent Direct programs. Will start there in truly contingent and finish with the total talent model.
Wonderful. So, Dave, really excited that we're going to bring MSP Talent Direct to mid-sized businesses across the Asia Pacific region and, potentially globally as it expands, because I think it's a core component of how mid-sized businesses are flourishing today. It's that access to quality talent, whether you're starting at contingent and evolving to a total talent model over time. It's really how can we best define talent for mid-sized businesses and be able to provide that access. So excited to launch this new product with you, and we look forward to bringing it to our clients in the very near future.
Great stuff. Thanks, Louisa.